Her face was too badly beaten to really try to make a positive identification in any way, but we had a sketch artist come in.
And we put the sketch in the media to see if anybody could recognize her.
The killer thought that they had done everything they needed to do to conceal the death and/or the identity of the person they killed, but they forgot one item.
During the autopsy, they removed her breast implants. Every prosthetic, including breast implants, have serial numbers on it.
Her name was Jasmine Field.
Jasmine was 28 years old. We learned that she was a former Playboy model.
I'm Jasmine, have a good time.
I was watching TV and it came up on the news and they showed her picture and my jaw dropped.
It was Jasmine, it was our Jasmine. We were stunned. How could this happen? Who could do something like this? How could any human being do something like this?
It just blew me away. Like, I just talked to her. Like, it's one of those things when people say, oh, they died. No, I just talked to her. They could be dead. But she was.
When I heard that a Playboy party hostess had been murdered and dismembered, that's all I needed to jump on this story.
I only knew about Jasmine in hindsight, but my friend Stacy knew her pretty well.
Jasmine came to our Fun in the Sun parties at the Playboy Mansion, and that's where I met her. I used to date Hugh Hefner as one of his girlfriends, and I lived at the mansion. When I was a girlfriend, Holly Madison was the main girlfriend, and it was fun.
Stacy Burke is a close friend of mine. She'd been going to mansion parties for a long time, and even after she stopped dating Hef, kept coming up there as a friend.
Playmates, girlfriends, or some girls that have found attractive that were allowed to come to Fun in the Sun would come around in their bikinis, and we would just have a pool party.
The women who would be invited to the Fun in the Sun parties had to fit a certain beauty standard. Hef looked over Polaroids of women to see if he thought they were, measuring up to be a pool party girl.
Jasmine loved being at the Playboy Mansion. She fit right in. She was tan, she was blonde, big boobs, perfect Playboy type.
The camera loved her. She wanted the world, and she went after it.
You would think she'd be stuck up, but she was not. She was very sweet, very soft-spoken, and very nice and courteous.
In the mid-2000s, Playboy was definitely more than just a magazine. It was seen as a lifestyle, a brand of parties. The Playboy golf tournaments were kind of like a regular golf tournament, but more fun. There were tons of women hired to work the events. They would call the Playboy Girls of Golf.
Our Girls of Playboy Golf were the hostesses of the event. And Jasmine became one of our Girls of Playboy Golf in 2004. To be a really good hostess, you have to know how to have fun with somebody, make them feel special. And it's not always about the most gorgeous woman in the world. It's not about that. If you have no personality, nobody's going to think you're something special. They had to be somebody who was very personable, charming, and who could entertain and host big events. They had to know how to represent the brand. And, Jasmine was very personable. We usually had about 35 events across the United States with several thousand golfers and really thousands of girls. And the girls were fantastic. And people could actually get a taste of Hef's life. When we went on the golf course, we weren't quiet on the course. We had DJs, we had games and fun. And there are some guys that never took their golf clubs out of their cart.
Just like at every hole, there was like a booth where women were handing out shots.
Jasmine definitely knew that, she was a very beautiful girl, but she had a smile, right? And so with that smile, she could charm you. And if she's having a great time, all our clients are having a great time. Everybody's having fun. After about a year of actually being one of the Girls of Playboy Golf hostesses, we asked her if she would like to helped coordinate the girls of Playboy Golf for our events in Las Vegas and in LA, and she jumped right on that.
Jasmine Fiore was brought up outside of Santa Cruz, California, in a small town called Monte Dune. She was an only child, but she wasn't a silver spoon kid or a trust fund kid by any stretch of the imagination. Her father left her mother when she was 9 years old, leaving her mother limited resources to raise her alone. And she was somewhat of a tomboy. She went on a race car expedition across the country. She rode horses with the best of the cowboys. She was one ambitious, fun-loving young woman. But she had her sights set far outside of Bonnie Doon. By 2006, she was splitting her time between Vegas and LA. And once she was entrenched enough and savvy enough in the modeling business, you know, the world was pretty much her oyster, just waiting for her to crack it open.
Jasmine is probably the type of woman who was told, you know, since she was an adult, you look like you should be in Playboy. And I think Jasmine, like a lot of other women, probably saw working the parties or working as a girl of golf as a stepping stone to something bigger, like a pictorial in the magazine.
To be a playmate, it's a ticket to the high life. Jasmine saw that all of a sudden things happen. You meet people. You're doing things that you never would do if you were from a small town. All of a sudden, you're getting invited to places. You're going out at nightclubs, places that you'd have to wait in line. You walk right in.
Jasmine had the typical California girl look. She was tall with a beautiful body. Usually that was the type of look that Hef really liked for the centerfolds.
But Jasmine understood that, you know, a centerfold, it's rare. It's 12 a year. And that's it.
Nonetheless, she still had ambitions to become a Playboy centerfold and did submit portfolios of photos.
When Jasmine was auditioning to be a playmate in the early 2000s, it was a very competitive time. There were so many women, thousands and thousands a month, submitting photos to be a centerfold. And even if Jasmine didn't make it as a centerfold, there were still a lot of doors open for her within the Playboy world.
And somebody that they may want to be a brand spokesperson, yeah, she had all those attributes and traits, and that possibility was always there. When Jasmine became one of our coordinators at Playboy Golf, she'd heard me make this speech before. Hey, you're gonna meet a lot of people. You have to be careful. You have to be able to understand that, you know, not everybody is who they say they are. When you're in the safety of our Playboy party, we can ensure that you can have the best of times and still be safe. But if you decide to venture out, we can't stop you from doing that, but we can't control what happens. You can't trust everybody. You can't.
The question was about mutilation. Yes, the fingers and teeth were removed.
As soon as the coroner's office gave us the name of Jasmine Fiore, we ran in our systems to see if she was reported missing, and that's when we found out she had actually been reported missing on the Saturday that we found her body.
At that point, LAP contacts us, and we learn that she's married to Ryan Jenkins.
According to the missing persons report that Ryan Jenkins filed, he made comments to them like she's been missing since August 14th, the day before we found the body. As soon as we know about Ryan Jenkins and that he is the person who reported Jasmine Fiore missing, we are frantically trying to get a hold of him. We get his phone number off the report, so we know it's his phone, and we are calling and calling, and he's just not picking up the phone for us. When you're looking at a homicide, you're always going to look at the husband. Doesn't mean it's the husband, but we got to talk to him. We got to eliminate him just like we eliminate everyone else. The missing persons detective with the LAPD actually got a hold of Jenkins and told them Yeah, I reported her missing, but I got to get back to Canada because I have visa issues. I thought it was pretty strange that he reports his wife missing and now he's leaving because of visa issues.
We dug it a little deeper, and we learned that he was in a reality TV show, Megan Wants a Millionaire.
This was months before the murder of Jasmine Fuel.
The star of the show was Megan Hausman, a former Playboy model.
In 2005, I got discovered by Playboy, and they made me a cyber girl. If you're a Playmate, you're featured as a centerfold in the magazine. If you're a cyber girl, you're featured on their website. Playboy at that time had all different kinds of products that they were trying to promote. So I did runway shows with their clothing line. They had a Playboy concierge service, so they would fly me to different nightclubs. And you got to be on the permanent list to the Playboy Mansion parties, which was like a golden ticket. I love the Playboy world. I couldn't get enough of it. But in 2007, I just got too busy with reality TV to continue with Playboy.
Hi, Megan. How's it going?
So the concept of Megan Wants a Millionaire was that I was single. I was looking to be in a relationship. I would prefer that person to have a lot of money and also be single, and for us to live happily ever after. The 17 bachelors had to have a minimum of a net worth of $1 million.
Oh my God!
And the casting agents held casting parties at different nightclubs and interviewed men to be on the show. 14 of you are pre-approved. 3 of you will be declined.
Ryan Jenkins lived in Calgary. It's a big, rich, wealthy oil town in the provinces in Canada. And he definitely had dreams of stardom, whatever it may be or whatever it took.
I met Ryan Jenkins on the first episode.
Hello, Megan.
I remember he was wearing a purple shirt, and I had a purple dress on. And my dog had a purple bow on her neck. So we all matched. And I liked him from the very beginning. Ryan would spend his time writing love letters to me. Hey, baby, I just wanted to tell you that I'm having a great time on this show, and it's all because of you. I always feel a connection with you regardless of what we are doing, as if you and I were the only ones in the room. I can't wait to have you all to myself, as I truly feel that a life together with you would be amazing. Your boy, Ryan. We had a real relationship happening, but we had to keep it secret.
This is an elimination contest show called Megan Wants a Millionaire. You know, you pretty much have to be a millionaire, don't you? So he told the casting director, and it went all the way up the chain in production, that he was worth $2.5 million.
Ryan claimed to be a millionaire, but it became obvious that he really didn't have much money.
Ryan's father's a real estate developer, has property in Canada, and he's actually the millionaire in the family. Ryan's not a millionaire. His father was a millionaire.
Window seat.
But I didn't care. I really liked him. When we were down to the last 3 contestants, I told the producer that I wanted to pick Ryan, and she said that that was not what they had planned. And that was the first time that I was made aware that the decision wasn't up to me. I had no time to tell him that I was going to eliminate him. Plus, I could not have jeopardized the show and told him before the elimination ceremony.
Hi, boys.
Ryan was standing in front of me with the other 2 contestants, the final 3, and I was shaking.
A connection that
I had a microphone in my ear, and I was just repeating what they were telling me to say, and I had to tell him he was eliminated. And he was just shaking his head and saying, like, no, that's not true.
A lot of times reality shows don't have a lot of regard for the people involved because they want to get the story. That's the first priority. They want a TV show that's gonna grab eyes and that everybody's gonna watch. So they're gonna get the content they want. They're gonna edit it the way they want. You know, they're gonna make you say what they want you to say, basically.
So after the elimination ceremony, he got back to his hotel and he started calling me over and over and over again. And I mean, I was getting ready to fly to Mexico to film the finale, and I had the producers with me. Could not talk to him on the phone. And then I was planning on calling him and explaining everything to him, smoothing it all over, and we could just go on with our happy plans. And 2 days later, he called me, and before I got to explain to him what happened, he said, "I have met the love of my life and I'm married." I really could not believe it, because just 2 days before that, he told me he was gonna marry me, and I was the love of his life.
Well, to say it was a whirlwind romance would be an understatement.
Ryan told me that he met her in a nightclub in Vegas. He asked her for her phone number. She put her phone number in his phone, and under the contact, she put her birthday. When he looked at the phone, he saw that it was also his birthday. They shared the same birthday, and he thought that that was a sign that she was the one, and he had to marry her.
And that made Jasmine believe that they were meant to be. So they met on March 16th, and 2 days later, March 18th, 2009, they're married at the Little White Chapel in Las Vegas.
Ryan thought that if he couldn't be married to me, he would find another Playboy model to be married to.
I think a lot of men, particularly Ryan in this case, want to date a Playboy model or to have that kind of trophy on his arm to get a lot of attention or reflect that attention back on them.
He presented himself as a very wealthy millionaire that was going to be starring in a TV show that was going to make him famous. She presented herself as a big model, you know, Playboy. And they had the idea that they were going to be this showbiz couple in Vegas.
They seemed like a glamorous power couple, but it was all a facade.
They kind of got married really quick without knowing each other that well. And having some problems, and she just didn't know how to handle it.
It's starting to look to Jasmine that, she threw it in for the wrong guy. This guy doesn't have any money. He kept promising that he'd have money and be able to take care of them, but he couldn't get his money into the country from Canada. She worked hard for her money, and he was dipping into it, and she resented that. He's not the guy he told her he was.
A couple weeks later, Ryan actually sent me this message from Vegas. "I got caught up after the show and made a hasty decision with a girl, as you know. But it's very obvious I am not with my soulmate here. If you'd like to see if there could be still something, we should talk." I just had a soft spot for him, and I felt like even if we weren't gonna have a relationship, I cared about him and I wanted to help him.
Ryan was our person of interest, but we also had to look at others. We wanted to speak with anyone that had any contact with Jasmine, specifically, days before her murder.
Came back from the coroner's office that DNA was present on Jasmine Fio's body. When they do the rape kit, they found semen. Guess what? DNA's in the system. Michael Cardozi is a parolee who had just been released from prison.
And he was a former husband of Jasmine.
I'm just like, what?
I had to double take when I found out that she had been married before.
And we learned that she had been with him days before being murdered.
On Tuesday, August 11th, 2009, 4 days before her body was found, Jasmine went down to San Diego to greet Michael Cardozi as he was being released from prison. after serving a lengthy stretch for drug trafficking.
She did more than a visit. His DNA was found at the scene.
And it's no surprise that when the detectives in charge found out, they wanted to have a look at this Michael Cardozi guy.
Originally, we thought, just get out of prison. Seaman's in, definitely a suspect.
I don't think there's much room for speculation as to why Jasmine and Michael Cardozi split up. He got busted, went to prison, marriage over. And they divorced in 2005.
He was still in love with Jasmine, and I think it's pretty clear that she had very strong feelings for him too, because she literally went down to San Diego to see him.
When he was questioned by detectives, he couldn't have had a more solid alibi. He had a monitor around his ankle tracking his every movement. He definitely wasn't anywhere near the scene of the murder.
At this point, I was positive that Ryan Jenkins was a suspect. And we feel that he's running from us, so we look more into his background, and we find out that he has criminal history.
And he had a prior domestic violence out of Canada.
He was convicted for assaulting his girlfriend and was sentenced to 15 months probation and a sex addiction therapy program.
Ryan became very jealous and very angry to see me even talking to other contestants. On the show, I had to kiss all of the guys. It's a dating show. And he had a hard time watching me kiss the other contestants. On March 8th, he wrote a message, "Seeing you kiss my bro was hard to deal with."
Having been in Playboy or working with Playboy as a woman, you can encounter men in your relationships who are really attracted to that, but they're also simultaneously very, very jealous, insecure, and can't handle it.
Ryan Jenkins was absolutely fiercely jealous of Jasmine. She so much as talked or texted to a guy, he was going to be jealous. He was prone to violence.
I had no idea that he was previously arrested for domestic violence. The show did some type of background checks, but the background check company missed it. From what I heard, he had his previous arrest expunged in Canada.
Apparently in Las Vegas, about a month after they got married, he saw her talking with someone, got jealous, pushed her into the pool, and he was arrested for misdemeanor domestic violence in Las Vegas.
And he wound up spending a night in jail for that.
And that case was still pending. It hadn't gone to court yet when her homicide happened. 4 months later.
I met my husband like 5 months before marrying him. So Jasmine gravitated towards me because we kind of had the same situation in her eyes. She asked me advice on how I handle when things get rough, because he said something like he gets angry, I don't know how to deal with it. And I go, I understand. My husband gets angry as well. Get him a man cave, try to keep busy. Just basically like girls like I know, aren't they terrible? Aren't husbands terrible? Just basic girl talk like that. I was just thinking it was more like my marriage. I didn't realize how much she was going through.
Staff was trying to call her to say, hey, are you going to be involved this year? And we didn't get any return phone calls. She just stopped coming around. And generally, when something happens like that, you always wonder, is somebody okay? Because usually people just don't shut you off like that.
In June 2009, Ryan came back to LA and called me and asked me if I wanted to go out to dinner with him. And I agreed. Ryan looked like he had lost several pounds. His face was very thin. He was very pale. He was shaky. He was paranoid. He was just not himself anymore. Ryan told me that Jasmine was ruining his life, but he's also obsessed with her not leaving him because he wants to win. He just can't accept any rejection. So I convinced Ryan to be on season 3 of VH1's I Love Money for the sole fact that I thought it would separate him from Jasmine for a while, and he really needed to be away from her. They didn't love each other. He didn't even like her, and she didn't like him. I told him, leave Jasmine and get some space from her and just go get away from everything. Me meeting with him and her finding out set off a big chain of events between the two of them.
By the time he went to Mexico to shoot the second reality show, I Love Money Part 3, Jasmine dyed her hair. She just wanted to become a different person. And she was actively trying to get their marriage annulled, kaput, ended.
Producers told me that he was so obsessed with winning the money so that maybe he could win back his wife. And he would just call her all the time from the show, trying to keep an eye on her.
On July 27th, Jenkins sends this plaintive email to Jasmine. I want you back. I'm gonna do better. I can't live without you. I need you. Now, how did they end up back together? Maybe she was giving him one last shot, or maybe she was just hanging out until she could be done with him. It's hard to say.
Everybody wants to look from the outside and say, well, the first time you saw a red flag, you should have left. And it's not like that when you're in it at all. Like, you spend the early part of a relationship seeing the best of a person, and you want to move forward in a relationship thinking it can get better. You think that the first thing that went wrong is a one-time thing. That person apologizes. It can take a lot for the average person to get out of an abusive relationship.
So while the manhunt for Ryan Jenkins is going on, this case had broken open in the news. On all the celebrity pages, it was on, ABC, NBC, CBS.
Police say 28-year-old Jasmine Fiore was strangled.
The media coverage surrounding Jasmine's death was really brutal. This came at a time when there was all kinds of new tabloid media chasing the story. People were searching for nude photos of her online. It was like one of the top searches. It just goes to show, the appetite for how sensational this case was.
You can't listen to the radio or turn on the TV without seeing it. I mean, even I was dumbfounded about how this became such a big story.
Police have found some key evidence in the case of murdered model Jasmine Fiore.
We were doing search warrants. We put a rush on it. We got Jasmine's cell phone number, and we got Ryan's cell phone number. That immediately gives me not only photographs and videos, but it gives me the text messages. And we found out the day before she died, they went to a poker tournament in San Diego.
We had a team of detectives go to San Diego to investigate the poker tournament and the hotel where they stayed.
And it turns out that the hotel has an extensive video system. That's the smoking gun. That allowed us to piece together Jasmine's final moments with Ryan Jenkins and figure out what happened to Jasmine. On August 13th, 2009, we see them arriving at 3:28 in the afternoon. We see Jasmine's car pulling up. They took her Mercedes. We see them get out of the vehicle. We see all their luggage being loaded onto one of those luggage dollies. One of the pieces of luggage is the same piece of luggage that her body was found in. So they're staying on the ground floor. They go to their room. We don't see them again till 6:25 when they're leaving the hotel room, and both of them are decked out for a night to go out to this poker tournament.
So we learned during the poker tournament, she was texting a new person of interest, a gentleman of the name of Robert Hasman, the former boyfriend
Robert Hasman was a high-end realtor in greater Las Vegas. He showed her the finer side of life at the very highest of levels. On the night she goes missing, she sends a text to Robert Hasman saying, "Send a plane for me. Come get me. I'm coming back to Vegas to be with you. I am done with Ryan Jenkins."
At the poker tournament, Ryan and Jasmine started getting into an argument to the point where they decided they needed to go.
They went after hours to this nightclub / hotel called the Ivy.
They arrived at the Ivy around 12:30 a.m. Witnesses from the Ivy say they really started getting into an argument at this point, and I think it's because he may have discovered the text messages she had been sending to her ex-boyfriend, Robert Hasman. And so Robert Hasman said that the last text message he received from Jasmine was, "Suck it," which was out of characteristics with everything she had been texting him up to that point.
And we know who sent that text. Ryan Jenkins sent that text.
According to witnesses, they leave the Ivy at 1:30 a.m. in the morning. They go back to pick up her vehicle. At the poker tournament, this is the last time anyone sees Jasmine Fiore. She's not upset, she's not crying. They left the casino at 2:30 in the morning. We don't see Ryan Jenkins again until 4:30 in the morning, roughly those times. So there's a 2-hour period missing now. We realized something happened. From the time they left where the poker tournament was to the time we next see him running to his hotel room, he looks panicked and in a rush.
You can see what the catalyst for Jenkins' rage and jealousy was, because when we look at her phone after the fact, she had been texting Robert all night long saying, "I'm coming back to Vegas. I want to be with you."
And he's just like, "How could you do this to me? You're my love, you're my life." He snaps and he beats her. The video surveillance never shows Jasmine entering the room, but we know that the parking lot is right behind their room. They have a small patio, and you have access directly to the patio from the parking lot. We searched the room. We didn't find anything in the room. The room had already been serviced by the maid service. But on the back patio, we found slivers of hair and a little bit of blood, which matches that of Jasmine Field's. And we see Ryan running around frantically, coming into the room. This indicates to us that she was not able to walk on her own, and he didn't want to bring her through the hotel lobby. Takes her onto the porch, runs around, goes into the room with his passkey, opens the back door, and brings her inside the room. Next time we see Ryan leaving the room, he doesn't have his jacket on, he doesn't have his shirt on, he's got like a t-shirt on. But I see him leave the room, and he's looking up and down the hallway. And there's an adagio directly across from the room. I guess that's where they keep the linens. After watching the video surveillance, they retrieved what was put on top of the adagio, and it was the phone receiver for the hotel phone inside the room. Because it wasn't inside the room. Ryan Jenkins had disconnected it and put it on top of the adagio, which works into our timeline that we discovered. That's because she was alive at that time. He'd have both the cell phones. He takes the phone out of the room so she can't possibly make any telephone calls. Because if she was already dead, he wouldn't have done that. And then he goes with an ice bucket to go get ice. And after he gets his ice, he comes back to the room. The ice machine's not covered by video, but he had an ice bucket and he came back. And it would make sense because now he needs to pack her with ice, going, "Oh, baby, baby, put this on your face, let the swelling go down." And according to witnesses who were in rooms opposite of theirs, they're arguing. He cannot obviously convince her not to press charges, not to call the police, and he snaps.
3 weeks into Megan Wants a Millionaire airing, There was breaking news on the TV. And
police named a suspect in the brutal killing of model Jasmine Fiore. It's her ex-husband, Ryan Jenkins.
I was in the shower and my roommate ran into the shower and said, "Ryan's on TV, he killed her." And that there was an international manhunt for Ryan. I immediately thought it was an accident. I didn't think that he could have purposely killed her.
He strangled her to death in the hotel room in San Diego. And then as an afterthought, he's thinking, how do I keep her from being found? If they find her, I don't want them to identify her. I believe he took her into the bathtub shower area and cut off her fingers. I believe he flushed them down the toilet. And teeth fragments were still inside of her mouth and inside the bag. After killing her, cutting off her fingers, breaking out teeth, he put her in her suitcase, zips it closed, takes it out the back of the room onto the patio area, and then into the vehicle. We can deduct this because none of the luggage came out the front. Next time we see Ryan is at 6:24 a.m., and he's leaving the room with what looks like his clothing in his arms, stacked up. According to our search warrants, we were able to watch Ryan drive from the hotel up the freeway. My theory is he's looking for a place to dump the body. Can't find one. Now he's going northbound the 5 and at Beach Boulevard. He sees a bunch of apartment complexes. He sees a dumpster. He opens the dumpster, sees that it's empty. He takes the suitcase out of his car that Jasmine's body is in, and he heaves it into the trash can.
We now have a warrant for the arrest of Ryan Alexander Jenkins for the murder of Jasmine.
We're one step behind him, and we feel we're getting real close to him. But I know that he knows that he's on the run. His reputation is him being a killer, a monster. That was how he was being identified. So I could only imagine he was desperate.
Ryan Jenkins went to Vegas. He went to a storage unit. He got his wakeboard boat.
We got information that he hitched it to his BMW, and then he travels north
to Washington.
We notified the U.S. border in case he decides to cross into Canada.
And we brought the Royal Canadian Mounties into it.
We get information that there was a speedboat speeding near the Canadian border in the U.S.
The United States Coast Guard spots Ryan Jenkins in his boat. It's at night, it's high seas. Ryan's out in the open ocean in his boat. They're trying to stop him, but they literally lost him. Ryan brought his boat back and parked it at a marina half a mile from the Canadian border and took off on foot.
He was able to walk into Canada where there is no border crossing. There's no fence, there's no nothing. It's just a ditch that separates the U.S. and Canada. So anyone can just cross it.
And then his sister came and picked him up. And she drove him to Hope, Canada, and he checked into the Thunderbird Motel. I believe he felt an enormous amount of guilt for what he did. I think he felt even more guilt that he couldn't get away with it and that his life was ruined and he was not going to spend it in a prison, which is why he hung himself.
So when they found his body, they also found his last will and testament. I'm sure everyone feels I'm a monster.
Let me tell you that Jasmine was, in fact, a far greater monster than I could ever be. I merely wanted to love someone.
My heart and love for her was pure and powerful.
It drove me and brought out the very best in me.
I'm sorry for running away from responsibility. There is just no place for me in this world anymore. Jasmine was the key to my happiness.
You know, you always think, oh, God, what could I have done? Like, I wish I told her to get away from him, but I didn't know to what level they were fighting or how bad he was.
He stole everything from her, you know? He destroyed her. I mean, how much havoc can one monster create on this earth? He's the worst of the worst, and he deserves every bit of hell that he no doubt made.
Jasmine was robbed of dreams and ambitions, and there's no excuse for that.
VH1 canceled the show. That ended my reality TV career, that ended my modeling career. People just didn't want to be associated with the murderers, and that was that.
This case is an extreme example of the glamour, you know, that you see from the outside, it just not measuring up in real life.
Looking this case, having found Jasmine Fiore in the suitcase and what was done to her, that's something that stays with me.
This was a real woman that so many people that I know knew and loved. And it's a tragedy.